Good day, everybody. This is Ying Yang in California with Morsels of Thought number 1787. I am here on morning number 1787. I've come here all these consecutive days, 1787 days in a row, giving you morsels of a thought, hopefully of wisdom. Hopefully, that we learn the right things to do in our lives because knowing the right things to do in our lives is having a form of wisdom, and doing the action is virtue. Action is magic, says George J. Chanos in one of the books that I read. I read different books every day. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do Women Dating Men. Wednesdays, I do quotes, usually from people like Epictetus or uh, uh, from the Book of Virtues. Fridays, we do Brain Rescue. Yesterday, we did George J. Chanos's book, Millennial Samurai. Today is Sunday, and we are reading from Greg S. Reid and Ben Haldeman, Lunar Legacy, DNA of Success, to book that left the book that went to the moon. Anything is possible if you believe it is. Now, I want to bring people's wisdom to us, so I'm reading to you what these people come up with in their whole years of life experiences, so we can take advantage of what they have learned and taught us so that we don't have to spend those years finding out for ourselves. Okay? So I'm going to read from chapter 23. We actually read a page of it last time, but I'm going to read from chapter 23 right now. Chapter 23. As he went through Victoria's coaching program, Ben began to let go of this is Ben Haldeman. Ben began to let go of the perception that the Lunar Legacy Project was his and started to realize that it was bigger than he was. Yes, he had produced it, as John Smith had shared, but he alone couldn't take credit for it, realizing realizing that the best way for it to attain success at the greatest level was to relinquish the credit. That's what he did. And as John had said, things started to move along. People stepped up, providing ideas and volunteering their expertise. And once some of the weight he'd been carrying was lifted from his shoulders, he noticed how much more quickly they were progressing toward their goal. It was freeing and satisfying at the same time. It was a relaxed Ben that picked up his parents at the airport the following weekend. They only had a few short days to spend together, and one of their first requests was to spend time with their granddaughter. It was Luna who suggested that they go on a short hike, and his mother mentioned that perhaps they could get a little sightseeing in when they were done. It was a perfect day for both. After they enjoyed an hour-long hike, during which time Luna talked nonstop to her grandparents, pointing out everything she'd seen on that same trail the many times she'd hiked it with her dad. When they were done, they decided to take a trip to a nearby small town and get something to eat. This is so wonderful. We have something like that in Saratoga, California, too. I did exactly the same thing one time. We were hiking through the woods. Then we hike into little downtown Saratoga, and then I bought a garlic press. And I thought to myself, where else but in California can you go on a hike and in the middle of the hike go buy a fancy garlic press from Sur La Table? How is that happening? Anyway, back to the book. As they were walking down the street, they came across a small ice cream shop tucked among a row of houses. Its unique appearance called them in, but even more, they were drawn to its fun name, Mad Hatter's Ice Cream. Walking into the door, they were immediately hit by the fun atmosphere and met by a woman who welcomed them as soon as they stepped in. "Thank you for stopping into Mad Hatter's," she smiled. "Oh, I think we had to. I don't think my daughter would have let us walk by," Ben laughed. As Luna and his parents perused the different ice cream flavors, Ben walked around the shop, checking out the items on the walls. Intrigued, he asked the woman if she was the owner. My name is Tammy Lane. Actually, I run the shop with the owner who has gifted it to me, she said. How fascinating. How did that come about? Well, I'm a recently divorced mother of three, and I'll admit that it's been a struggle. I was an Uber driver, and the owner of this shop became my friend. As he saw me come and go at all hours to drive people where they needed to go, he said he wanted to do something good for me because he's seen me do good for others, she shared. Believe me, I was shocked when he told me that he wanted me to have this shop. It was a blessing when I really needed one. What an incredible story, Ben grinned. It's been a blessing. Ice cream is the end all, fix all. People walk through those doors when they're happy or mad and when they're sorry and want to celebrate. As someone who has struggled with depression, I can understand all of those emotions, Tammy said. I am fortunate that I get to bring the light to this fun and wacky place, and I get to promote my message, which is a bonus. What message is that? Ben said. Ben asked. Well, people battle with their self worth, and I think appreciation changes everything, especially when we express that appreciation before anyone does something for us. I call it putting the pre in appreciation, she said. Putting the pre in appreciation. Like when you thanked us when we walked in the door, Ben asked, catching on. Exactly. Or tipping a server or driver before they begin to serve you. It pivots the person's day and starts the interaction on a positive note before anything is said or done, Tammy said. I even wrote a book about it, coincidentally titled Putting the Pre in Appreciation. I wrote it because I want people to consider the trail they're leaving behind, knowing that every day, even on the hard days, we leave a ripple on everyone we meet. We have the ability to remind people that they matter. I love it, Ben exclaimed. We are reading Lunar Legacy DNA of Success by Ben Haldeman and Greg S. Reid. This is a national bestseller. I've come here 1787 consecutive days. It's that many days in a row, giving you morsels of a thought of what I hope is wisdom, because knowing the right thing to do in your life is having wisdom, and actually doing it is creating virtue. So we're creating virtue in the world with morsels of a thought. Yay! I had no idea I was doing that. Anyway, back to the book. Thank you, and I think your daughter would love some ice cream, Tammy pointed out as she glanced at Luna, who was anxiously waiting for them to return. While Luna wanted to try every flavor, she finally decided on two of her all-time favorites. When all four of them had a cone in hand, they sat down at one of the tables to enjoy their treats, but Ben found himself too curious to sit still. Getting up, he walked across the shop and admired the unique decor. Every once in a while, something caught his eye, and he asked Tammy about it. The more he talked to her, the more fascinated he became. He discovered that Tammy was not only an author, but she was also an Iraq veteran who was committed to helping others. After her depression resulted in suicide attempts, she turned to using kindness to make her world a better place. Not only did she run the ice cream shop, but she also teaches suicide prevention courses, helping people understand those in crisis and sharing how to ask for help. It's all about allowing people the space and the grace to be human, Tammy explained. And don't we all need that? Ben pointed out. Yes, we do. We are like the phases of the moon. Sometimes we are bright and fully on, lighting up the sky. There are times when we are every phase in between. Then there are those times when we are not present and have nothing to give. The moon changes like that too, but nobody judges the moon. Nobody gets mad at the moon for being full and bright one day and a mere sliver of itself the next, do they? She asked. No, you're right, they don't, Ben agreed. Her mention of the moon prompted Ben to talk to her about his fascination with the moon. When he brought up the Lunar Legacy mission, he just knew her message was one he had to preserve for posterity. What legacy would you send to the moon, Tammy? He asked. I think people need to consider what others might be going through, and getting involved with those in the community allows you to get to know them and their struggles. Knowing that we would never say something rude or disrespectful to others, we need to remember that our words and actions can cause pain, and there is no reason to hurt another person, whether it's intentional or unintentional. So, my legacy is to give people the grace to be human, but also to remember that the people we interact with are human. What we say and what we do matters. They matter, Tammy replied thoughtfully. Tammy, your message is one we often forget, but it's one that would make the world a better place. After all, nobody is perfect, and every day won't be perfect either. That's right. We could all use more kindness. If we do better at saying yes when kindness is offered, it would be easier to spread it and it becomes contagious. Others want to carry on and keep that spark lit. That is exactly what we want to do with the lunar legacy, to keep mankind and all of its awesomeness preserved. We want to make sure humanity lives on. Like you said, we matter, Ben smiled. Yes, we do. Thank you for preserving our existence, she spoke with sincerity. Well, we haven't launched yet. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, Ben replied. It's about putting the pre in appreciation. Thank you for doing this and including me in your mission. And thank you for making the universe a kinder place, he said. You've given me a new perspective today. While you're focusing on bringing ice cream smiles and kindness to others, don't forget that you too matter. Chapter 24. We are bringing more virtue into the world with books like Lunar Legacy, Greg S. Reid, Ben Haldeman, national bestseller. Lunar Legacy DNA of Success, Chapter 24. I'm bringing it into morsels of a thought because morsels of a thought of wisdom hopefully will lead to action on the wisdom, which becomes virtue. After reviewing the list of contributors, Ben felt something was missing. This is chapter 24. The lunar legacy had connected him with entrepreneurs, business leaders, and people from nearly every industry except for one. While there was a common theme of spirituality among many of the participants, the project didn't include leaders in the religious or spiritual spheres. Because Ben believed that it was critical that the legacy of a spiritual leader be included, he asked his followers to connect him with someone who they believed would leave a lasting impact. And they didn't disappoint. As he read the dozens of bios he received, one stood out: Horatius Harris. Ben quickly connected with him and set up a Zoom call for the following day. The meeting left a profound impact on him, and he was taken in by the pastor from the minute he started telling Ben his story. I am a son, a husband, a father, a philanthropist, and a pastor. But I have a dual life. I'm a king and a priest. I'm a king because I love doing business in the earth realm, which is how I provide for my family and my avenue toward leaving a legacy. As a priest, I minister and use the principles I preach to guide others. Together, that is how I leave an impact on others, spiritually and financially. It is known that a good man leaves an inheritance to his grandchildren. The Creator, capital C, defines a good man by leaving a legacy spanning 3 generations. Interesting. Horatius then went on to tell him what had influenced him in life. When I was 12 years old, I woke up early in the morning to a loud scream from my mother, who had just received a phone call that my oldest brother had been killed in a car accident. He was 7 years older than me, and he was my hero. He graduated from high school at 16 years old and received a full college scholarship, but he opted not to go because he wanted to provide for his mother and family. Instead, he went into the Navy. After 2 years, he was on his way home from Virginia to Atlanta, and when he arrived in Atlanta, a drunk driver flipped his car and landed on my brother's car, killing him instantly, Horatius explained. I'm so sorry, Ben replied. That must have been horrible. It left a lifelong impact on me, and I decided to follow his footsteps and go into the Navy as well. However, due to a football injury, I couldn't pass the medical exam. Attending college was an afterthought, but I did very well and even went on to get my master's degree in electrical engineering. We are bringing more virtue into the world with morsels of a thought of wisdom from other people, such as Greg S. Reid and Ben Haldeman. They are in the book Lunar Legacy DNA of Success. We're actually going to take magic action and commit acts of virtue. So now we read from others to see their life experiences so we can learn the right things to do for ourselves. Quote, despite the fact that I'd accomplished those things, the master's degree in electrical engineering, I was still struggling and couldn't figure out why I was not fulfilled. Although I had a good job, my wife and I were still on government assistance. I was not in the center of my earthly assignment. Having reached my break point, I fully gave my life to God and surrendered to Him, capital H, and within 2 weeks, my life turned around. I was hired as an independent IT contractor, which led me to owning my own company and ultimately attaining millionaire status. After much praying, I became thankful for my success and thankful that my prayers were granted. After years of success, what came after that shifted me. While meditating in prayer with God, I asked, is there something you want from me? And I received the reply, yes. Now that I gave you what you wanted, can you give me what I want? Really? Ben asked. What did he ask you to give him? Capital H's. What he wanted was for me to relinquish what I had accomplished and go into the full-time staff ministry. This is what I did. I gave up everything I had accomplished on the business side. However, what was amazing was that within 6 to 7 months of being in ministry full-time, I received another avenue where I could be a minister and be in business at the same time, and I became a real estate investor. Now I can provide for myself and the ministry by means of my business. The DNA of success is our ability to hear God when He speaks to us. Which brings me to my big question, Horatius. What legacy are you working to leave behind? Ben asked. I want people to realize that there is an eternal reward for honoring the Creator. They have to honor the Creator. He is the one who knows every single detail about us, but we are so caught up in thinking everything is about us. The creation is not in control. It is the creation that must honor the Creator. It's a mindset shift that allows us to fulfill our ultimate dreams and desires for the very things we have been praying for, Horatius explained. If you could preserve something in your life for posterity, what would you want future generations or even other beings to see? Ben asked. If I could preserve something, it would be my journals where I can see the requests I've made and the time frame and ways they've been answered. In addition, I'd include my dissertation, which includes a lot of research and thought into what affects performing the Great Commission and how that gives community and guidance to civilization. And I'd put a picture of my family in there. They are my legacy too, Horatius stated. Yes, they do have your DNA, Ben agreed, and in that DNA lies your gifts, some of which you pass on to your descendants. Can you share what your unique gifts are, Pastor? I have the gift of faith and the gift of administration and leadership. When things appear to be insurmountable, I am able to put focus on it and allow things to happen. That's what makes me different from other people, the pastor replied. What's your life's goal and mission, Pastor? Inquired Ben. To be honest, my life goals are not my own. It is a commandment to minister to the uttermost parts of creation. I need to make sure that 3 generations of the people I encounter are prepared to receive financial and spiritual wealth. I've made sure my unborn grandchildren are financially set, and through my life's work and guidance, my children are spiritually set. Another goal is to make sure that I leave everything better for everyone I come into contact with now and for generations to come, Horatius answered. I know that you will definitely do that, not just for the human race, but for those who might exist in an entirely different galaxy. Ben nodded. Like you, I believe in the interconnectedness of life and intelligence of the universe. It will be interesting to see their impact decades or centuries from now. I have faith that this is my purpose, and the Lunar Legacy Project is another avenue put in my path to help me fulfill it in a broader scope than I ever imagined, Horatius said. To the moon, Ben added. And beyond, Horatius corrected. Only the Creator knows just how far. So we will read chapter 25 next week. Destiny screeched with excitement when she received the message that one of her college friends was coming to town. That will be pretty close to the end of the book. Greg S. Reid. About Greg S. Reid. For over 25 years, Greg has inspired millions of people to take personal responsibility to step into the potential their greatness of their greatness, and as such, his life of contribution has been recognized by government leaders, a foreign princess, as well as luminaries in education, business, and industry. Mr. Reid has been published in over 100 books, including 32 bestsellers in 45 languages. Titles such as Stickability, The Power of Perseverance, The Millionaire Mentor, and three feet from goal to turn your obstacles into opportunities have inspired countless readers to understand that the most valuable lessons we learn are also the easiest ones to apply. Greg Reid is known best for being founder of Secret Knock, a Forbes and Inc. magazine top-rated event focused on partnership, networking, and business development. He is the producer of the Oscar-qualified film Wishman, based on the creator of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, the late creator of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. For his work in mentoring youth in his hometown of San Diego, Mr. Reid was honored by the White House, where a former president commended Greg for positively working with youth through a local mentorship program. And if that is not enough, recently Greg was honored with a star on the infamous Las Vegas Walk of Stars. Isn't that great? And about Ben Haldeman. Ben Haldeman, a visionary space entrepreneur and eternal explorer, is the founder of LifeShip, a movement preserving the DNA of Earth and messages from humanity on the moon and beyond. Individuals leave their mark in the collective tapestry of humanity by preserving their DNA and story in these space-time capsules. Ben was an early engineer at Planet, capital P, where he designed the cameras used on hundreds of space satellites to record our changing planet. He built a network of dozens of robotic telescopes to find new exoplanets and designed instruments to look for life on Mars. Ben resides in San Diego with his daughter Luna. His life echoes with the spirit of an accomplished ultra endurance athlete, big wall rock climber, and jungle explorer. Fueled by a passion for moonshot challenges and a relentless pursuit of the stars, Ben embodies a life dedicated to pushing boundaries and reaching for the cosmic unknown. So, we shall read more of this and yet more references next week. Talk to you later. I hope I've inspired you to have a great day and create some virtue in the world. Okay. Old Kinderhook.